Hey guys, how you guys doing? Today I have a good friend, Chad from the
What's
band You
up?
Found Glory.
Yes.
Miss you, dude.
I miss you too, man. Thanks for
Dude.
having me.
Well, first of all, how you doing? What are you doing? Where are you at?
Man, I'm hanging. I think just like everybody slowly trying to, you know, figure things out, like things to do. I do a lot of hiking, outdoor stuff. I'm actually like a youth leader and that started up again. So I've been able to like hang out with like our youth group stuff. So I've been able to hang with like kids again. And that's kind of been interesting, like hearing like what teenagers are going through,
Dude,
like their heads and like, it's pretty crazy.
how's that experience?
It's awesome. I got this one kid said that it was so funny. He's a freshman and he's like, we're asking all the kids like, so, how's it been? What have you been, like doing in the quarantine time? And he's like, I discovered heavy metal. And he's like, yeah, I discovered metal and there's this band Ghost and I discovered like Tool and he just starts talking about all these like heavy metal bands that he discovered. So pandemic's doing some good stuff, has kids at home
Dude,
learning about heavy metal. It was awesome.
it's crazy because so I started doing this like streaming service, like outside of this, out of like this as a hobby, and like I started doing streaming service for different like formats, artists, or like I just recently did one for like a youth group church service. And it was cool because we actually got to meet the kids, and they're actually like the backup dance group for Beyonce.
Oh
And
wow.
they were talking about what they want to do when they grow up, and it was just some of the like when I was a kid, you picture different like I want to be a firefighter, I want to be in a band, I want to be in this, and it's weird because like for the first time in my life, I heard I want to be a gamer or I want to be a TikTok artist.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Wild.
what?
Yeah.
I didn't know how to respond to it. I was like, wait, what? Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't want to shame a kid for that. I just like it's a whole nother world, But
Yeah. And then in 10 years they hire us because they're the
yeah,
bazillionaires and they're like have a famous TikTok for like gardening or something.
uh,
Whatever it is, like it's crazy.
but yeah, it's such a different interaction that kids have now. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was also interesting to see like they're like like this whole new format of learning for them where they like have to learn from like home or online, and it's either some kids excel in it and some kids don't, and it's just like
Mhm.
me personally as a kid, like I had to be in class. If not, I was like, dude, I ain't learning shit unless someone tells me to.
Yeah, I think it's interesting hanging out with them too. Like you see how much like they rely on connection, you know what I mean? And like the one how much like I mean it's funny for me, like you just said with school, all the kids are like, I miss school. And you're like, I never would have said that ever,
Ever.
but I never would have had to say that. But now like thinking about these kids is like they literally rely so much on their friends and that interaction that like I see the import you learn the importance of like all the things we take for granted, and what they do like psychologically to people. And
Yeah.
so it's pretty interesting, man. And
Well,
you
that's
know,
cool. It's cool you're staying busy at home. So,
yeah, I mean, I've been doing stuff with the band, like just for Newfound, we did a live stream that went really well in June, and now
you guys are
September
doing
20, yeah, we're doing another one.
yeah.
Yeah, September 26th is actually the 20-year anniversary of our first major label record, and we planned like we were going to tour it and do all that. So we
Yeah.
just decided to do a stream for it since we can't tour it. But
Well,
pretty
I definitely have some questions about that, but
okay.
Chad and I originally became friends from our hardcore background,
Ah,
uh,
cool.
and have had a friendship for quite some time now. But to me, as a kid growing up, what one of my favorite bands growing up was Shai Hulud. You were one of the singers of Shai Hulud.
I was.
How, so Florida based. How was that experience going from like Shai Hulud to like being in this completely opposite type of band, but like
My side project.
Yeah.
Newfound Glory was my side project. There was my Shai Hulud side project. Yeah, and I remember, yeah, it was crazy, man. I think, it's definitely like a product of what was happening in South Florida.
Mhm.
Um, South Florida, growing up there, like and you always hear people say like South Florida, like why not just Florida? Like what the heck, But like
Oh, it's very different.
it's very, very different, if you've never been there. It's very different than the northern parts of Florida and Central Florida. But the main thing is like you're so far from everything. So like if I'm gonna play another state, it's a 10-hour drive, 11-hour
Yeah.
drive. So just to play, so you're really like in your own bubble. And down there, the most popular bands were the local bands, because like it was really hard at the time in like mid-late 90s. It was really hard for, if you weren't like a giant band,
Mhm.
it was really hard for bands to get all the way to South Florida. Like hardcore bands couldn't just like add it. It was a big deal to get down there. And then they thought they were going to get shot or killed or stabbed.
Yeah.
I remember Stretch Armstrong, when I first met Stretch Armstrong, they're like, so like, we were going to play down there, but we heard we could like get stabbed or, because like in the 90s, like Miami had a really, scary reputation, like tourists were getting killed and like all this crazy stuff. So it kind of had this hard, what's up?
No, I was saying South Florida was like always a wild place. I remember playing the show there, and people just started throwing fireworks into the room, and like something ended up catching on fire. And I was like, we literally just played 2 songs.
Yeah, dude, there was a time, man, where it was so heated. Like you would see like guns like fall in the pit.
Oh yeah,
Like dudes were dancing, and there was like, skinheads, and then like hardcore kids, and then it just got so like heated at some points. It was weird, man. It was definitely like Wild West for
so like in the 90s, like how did you get involved with hardcore? Like what were the bands that like, what were those local bands that like drew you to it? What was it that drew you to hardcore?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool because 2 of them are still my best friends now, but I sort of lucked out. I grew up in like this like suburb, nice community called like it was called Coral Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Coral Springs was like, this is kind of how it all started. I lived by the park where I played baseball at, had this place called the Coral Springs City Center. Coral Springs was always about, we have to give the youth something to do.
Mm-hmm.
So this woman was given money to put on concerts at this little city center so the kids in town would have something to do. I lived right by there. So they started booking punk and hardcore bands. But back then, like people didn't really know the difference between metal and hardcore. It kind of was all mixed. Like, was that a hardcore band? Was it a metal band? It was just like, it was still growing. So they booked Strong Arm and Tension. Strong Arm, Christian hardcore band, and Tension.
Tension was local, right?
Yeah, they're a local band. And Strong Arm was local too. And it was like one big family. And I went to the show and I was like, what is this? This is crazy, like this is awesome, So I became friends with the lady, and I was like probably 5th, 6th grade. So I would like help her promote shows. And it didn't matter to me if it was punk, ska, alternative, whatever. I just was like a part of this city center place, and I would help the lady. And bands loved it because they were paid by the city, like you're a local band getting paid like actual money. Back then you didn't, but because it was run by the city, local bands loved it because it was like, cool, free money. I get to play,
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I was in a garage band, a metal band called Backscatter. And we opened up, since they were put on by the city, we opened up one of those shows for Strong Arm. Yeah. And at that show, yeah, it was pretty cool. And so since I was so young and like playing that show, the guys in Strong Arm were like, hey, like, this is crazy. Like, nice to meet you. And they kind of like took me under their wing. And then they just started like, got me into punk and hardcore, and Tension and Strong Arm were like my older brothers. So what happened was like, yeah, they would pick me up from school. And like one time they took me, I saw the Strife and Sick of It All Scratch the Surface tour when Strife had the blue cassette tape.
Yeah.
So I didn't know Strife, but I went to see Sick of It All, and then I was blown away by Strife. Like I was like, this is insane.
Dude.
Like, you know, because you didn't really know of bands really until you saw them. It was a lot harder.
Yeah.
Because no internet, you know.
It was funny because I was talking to a friend recently. I was like, when I was a kid, unless the band came through your city, or what I would do all the time is I would always go through like the CDs and go through the thank you list.
Yep. Thank you list for everything.
Yeah, that, or like and then like I would find out about a certain label, and then I'll go through the labels discography.
Yeah. That's exactly what was happening to me, is that my metal band opened for Strong Arm because of playing that local city show. They took me under their wing, thought I was cool because I was like really young playing metal, and they just got me into good music, you know. And my brother was a senior in high school, so he was getting into good music too. So it was like this perfect storm of like just getting all this stuff at a young age because of having an older brother and then the Strong Arm Tension guys.
Dude, that's awesome, dude. I mean, till this day, Strong Arm is one of my favorite bands. And I mean, awesome. Strong Arm is a Christian band for the most part, correct?
Yeah, they were a Christian band.
Dude, when I was younger too, a lot of those bands that did get me into hardcore were Strong Arm, Disciple,
yeah,
NIV. There was a lot of
those,
yeah, Overcome, definitely.
All those like. Yeah.
So you obviously got into music at a very young age. What was your introduction to Shai Hulud, and how did that happen? For some reason I thought, was Shai Hulud from Florida, or were they from New York?
Yeah, Shai Hulud was from Florida. What's up?
Hi, sorry.
Hey, how you doing?
I have to grab my water.
Water's good for you.
It is.
Your water. Stay hydrated. So, the whole thing with Shai Hulud happened because of that whole circle. So, the drummer of Strong Arm played drums in Shai Hulud. So I knew him from Strong Arm. And then I started playing bass and Tension later. So I started playing bass with Tension, and Tension had a show with Shai Hulud. And I guess Shai Hulud was having problems with their singer who did the demo. Damien did their demo, and they're having problems with him. And I got on the mic and I screamed on a Tension song, and they just heard it at the show and were like, damn, that dude can sing or whatever. Yeah. But I was 15, so they would just tease me. I was playing bass for Tension, but they would go, you should sing for us, but you're too young, And they kept saying that, like, every time I'd see him, like, you could be in the band, but you're too young. And I was like, cool. And I wasn't like a big fan of Shai Hulud at the time. Yeah. I was more into the New York hardcore side of things. Yeah. You know what I mean? And Tension had more of that like New York hardcore groove, and so I wasn't at the time fully. And then me and Matt, the guitar player of Shai Hulud, became friends. And then finally he was like, do you want to do it? You want to do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I practiced with him, and then I kind of joined the band. And then they'd have to schedule tours like when I was off school, so like summer and spring break and things like that. And actually the singer of Tension, who passed away last year, 2 years ago now, a good friend of mine, this dude Mike, he was awesome. He actually signed legal guardianship for me.
Oh, really?
So in order to go on tour, they all came over and met my mom. And I was like, Mom, Strong Arm, they're a Christian band.
Dude, I had the same excuse.
Yeah. And Shai Hulud, like, they're straight edge, they don't do drugs. Like, can I please go on tour with them? And I was 15 or 16. And, when if I had to go to a hospital or somewhere, someone needed to be my guardian assigned for me. So like, my mom, I had to have Mike sign some papers. So he was like my dad for the tour.
That's incredible. It's so cool hearing your, how your encounter and how you got involved with music, because it's kind of similar to me. It was like when I was a kid, I was like, to kind of convince my mom to let me go to shows. I was like, hey, it's a Christian show. It's totally fine. And I did have some older friends that would come pick me up and talk to my mom and be like, yeah, he's fine. Don't worry. He's good,
Dude, that's awesome.
Little did she know I ruined my life.
we played on that tour someplace, and we played 2 places in Southern California. I remember one was the Huntington Beach Library,
Mm-hmm.
with, it was a hardcore band that had a girl singer. I forget what they were called
I think.
back then. And then we played another like church kind of place, and that was cool because I think it was like Bloodshed,
That's
and
awesome.
Theo, and who else played? Yeah, and Shiloh and Strong Arm, and
Do you ever miss like playing in like in an aggressive band, or like do you ever have like the itch to just be like, oh, I want to start a
honestly, like I did a Shiloh show in Miami at
Yeah.
Churchill's, and that was awesome. And New York, the Rev showcase when they did the anniversary thing.
Yeah.
I did the New York one, and it was so fun. It was so fun. I just don't think I'm like pissed off enough to do it. Like I would feel like kind of fake, you know? Like
Yeah.
I'm not mad enough. Like at the time, like I can't, and I get bronchitis, dude. I'm shot now. So anytime I try to sing like that Miami show, I think I was sick for like the next 2 weeks.
Oh man.
I just shred my. I can't just sing casually. Like you know how it is.
Yeah, you scream the
Yeah, you're pissed off and you scream, like, you know, and I think that if I sang in a hardcore band, I wouldn't be able to, you know, be authentic, you know, because like, you know, like when you scream, you want to be pissed off, you want to be mad about something, and that's how you get the emotion, and that's how, you know, you're able to like really get in the zone. And I don't know. I would play guitar in a hardcore band.
Yeah.
That would, you know, that would be awesome. And so, yeah, I do miss those kind of shows. But I'm able to get my fix like still for Newfound, you know, in the sense that like we still do fun shows like that.
Just being creative and writing. Yeah, no, I totally understand that, because there's times where I'm just like, you know, you get to a certain age where like, you know, when I first started writing and playing in a hardcore band, it came from a very dark and aggressive place where like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm not that person anymore. You know, it's like I don't want to go down that path, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's cool that, you know, you still, you know, obviously it was a part of your life that was brought you to where you are at now.
Yeah.
So now, you know, Newfound Glory came into the picture. What was like the late 90s, I assume, like 97, 98?
97.
So
Yeah.
how did that come out? How did that come to be? Like, how did that form as far as the band? Were they all from your same area as well, or?
Yeah, they actually, it's so funny. I have some old videos of Shia Lute shows, but like of Jordan, our singer, like in the pit singing along.
That's awesome.
And my bass player and just old, like, yeah, just that whole time period. And so they were fans of the band, of Shia Lute. And I just met, you know how like the scene is like punk hardcore scene, like you just kind of know, you just know faces, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I always remember Jordan, our singer, for his like little bleach blonde tips and his like chokers and his like
Yes.
and his snapcase shirt, you know, like that era, like that look. So I always remember seeing him around shows, and believe it, like I have a stepbrother named Blake, and Blake was like really, really into music like I was, but opposite, where I had to know like every every hardcore band. He had to know every Southern California surf punk band, like skate surf band. So he had all the surf skate videos, you know, like the 411 video, like all the old school, like, you know, he had Blink when Blink wasn't Blink 182, you know, he loved Blink, Pennywise, you know, that whole scene. And my stepbrother Blake was a drummer. So in my living room, he would play punk songs and I would just play guitar. So I would play like punk rock songs with Blake just because we lived together and we would just jam in my living room. And then we had a friend who brought over Jordan, and they heard me playing with my brother. So, and they had Newfound Glory already started.
Okay.
And they were like, hey, do you want to play guitar in our band? Like, you play punk? Like, that would be cool. Like, I was like, I don't know. I don't have time. You know, I'm in Shia Lute. Like, you know, we're big, you know. We just toured with, you know, we just played with 10 Yard Fight. Like, we're, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, nah. And then they kind of kept asking me, like, once they saw me play those kind of songs with him,
Mhm.
And I was like, eventually I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. It'll be fun to do because I also love Rancid. I love Green Day, and I love that style of music as well. So I was like, all right, this will be fun. And started practicing with them and started playing locally. And it was like, oh, Chad from Shy Elude side project. And we would open for all the hardcore bands. And then when I was in high school, how it started taking off other places, when I was like a freshman or sophomore, I used to be friends with the teachers, so I would get out of class. I would get out of class a lot. So
Yeah.
I'd like hall passes and passes to the library where there was one computer. So I don't know if you remember, but there was like, I don't know if it still exists, but back then there was on Revelation Records, they had like a map where you could click a state and see all the shows in that state.
No, I don't remember that, but that's wild.
Yeah, so it was like a thing. It was like this map on Rev or whatever. So I'd go and use that and click and find shows and write down the phone number.
That's
And I'd call the person and be like, I'm in Shy Elude, but I got this other band. Can we hop on the show? So like, yeah, that's how we would like get on shows, like
that's
random.
so cool.
What was JC? Oh yeah, I remember getting on what was the band with JC and what's his name from Kill Switch's old band? Was it Blood Has Been Shed? Was that no? Was that their band?
They played in. I'm trying to think. Was it Blood Has Been Shed? I wanted to say Songer, but I don't think it was that.
No, we used to just get on like the most random like hardcore shows everywhere, and it was like no big deal.
But what's funny is that when I was a kid, when I first started going to shows, that was normal. Like one of the first shows I ever went to was the Nerve Agents, Bane, and Saves the Day opening up.
Yeah,
it was just like completely opposite bands, so it was like kind of funny. But
yeah.
I've always wanted to ask is that like me, I'm also a New Found Glory fan. That like when you guys started, is that like you guys are somewhat like the pioneers of what pop punk is, and like the sound essentially, like I don't know if you see it that way, but me from like a fan and like a music perspective,
yeah,
you guys were one of the pioneers of what we call pop punk now.
That's awesome.
But what because before that, like the only other bands that I could think that had a similar sound was like Blink 182, and I think that you guys were both at that at that same era where you guys were both going back and forth and growing. But like what influenced New Found Glory in the sound? Because it's like I can't off the top of my head, I can't really think of another band that like
That's
at
cool.
that time that would sound like you guys, like so
Yeah.
what influenced your guys' sound, and what influenced like your writing?
I think honestly, the biggest thing was to make everyone in the band happy. Whereas like in the sense of like, well, first thing, because the scene didn't already exist, there was no like mold to fit in.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I'm like in my head, I'm like, how did you guys like that?
Yes.
There were softer bands, but there wasn't this collaboration of like, pop, punk, and like almost like you guys also had like almost like breakdowns in your songs too.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was the thing that I loved. Like, I would say like if I could write, like draw it on a chart, this is the thing, like I always think about it on a chart, is that we had one thing that unified all of our tastes, and that was Green Day, right? So we had one common thing, which was Green Day. But then if you went over here with me, I was into New York hardcore, and, really into New York hardcore in general. Those are the shows I went to. That was the energy, that was that. Then the next line would be Ian. Ian was into West Coast punk. He loved Fat Records. He loved all those old Fearless and Nitro comps. All those old Nitro, like the old AFI.
Yeah, like to give them the boot, all the give them the boot comps and comps,
all that stuff. Like when I was in his car, it was always like, was it 30-foot fall and like just like crazy like West Coast, random or not. Well, I think actually 30-foot fall might be from Canada. Can't remember.
I think at that time there was like Lagwagon, 10-foot pole.
Yeah, 10-foot pole. Yeah,
stuff like that. But even then, that wasn't like that. That was like a California punk. It wasn't necessarily like pop punk. So it's like
it was just punk rock. So that was Ian, and then Jordan, our singer, was like the indie guy, dude. He was like he loved like every shirt that sells for like $500 online right now, he had, you know, like he was way before, you know, like he was
Yeah.
the indie guy. He was like, you know, Sugar, Jawbreaker, Quicksand,
That's
and then even weirder, like I don't even know, like he liked Texas the Reason and Sensefield and like the Rev emo stuff, but he was even more like weird indie guy. Like
yeah.
every band you never Jordan. So Jordan was more in the emo indie thing, and then Cyrus, our drummer, was just alternative. Just so I
Yeah.
feel like we combine that like song structure of Cyrus, the halftime heaviness, chunkiness, because like since I play guitar, I wanted to bring what I liked playing too, which was like scratch the surface, set it off,
Yeah.
like that, those kind of grooves. And then Ian had to have the, you know, the punk thing, and then lyrically and melodically was like the emo stuff. And that was Jordan. So we all just kind of fit it all in, and it was to make everyone happy. Like Ian's like, nah, bro, we got to do the fast part. So okay, cool. Here's the fast part. And I'm like, yo, we got to do a breakdown because it's, you know, and then we da, 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 da. And then yeah, so it was all like, it was a combination of just everything we were into one thing. And honestly, I'm great, like thankful that our scene was awesome, because
Yeah.
our scene didn't care. There was no judgment. Like we would play, you know, like old flyers would be like Morning Again, Poison the Well, Newfound Glory, a ska band, you know, a metal band, and then like whatever, you know, it just didn't matter. Like everyone just played these shows. We had this venue called Club Q, which was like this hillbilly bar, and then before that a place called Cheers in Miami, and like that was it. It was just everyone kind of embraced everybody and just really kind of supported, and so it was awesome.
That's cool to like hear that, just because like I always wondered, like, so essentially Newfound Glory was just like a soup of like all alternative music into.
Yeah, it was just kind of making everyone kind of the melody, melodic stuff from more of like the emo scene, the, you know, the old emo indie scene,
Yeah.
not the new, you know, not the goth emo, but the
It's cool to see like what that built, like, you know, what that built, you know, 2 decades later, like it built a whole nother scene, you know. And
yeah.
and I,
There was like two, oh sorry, cut you off. There's like two bands, for I don't want to forget, that really influenced us, that not a lot of people, at least for me, not a lot of people listen to. Well, I mean, a lot of people listen to them too, but it was a band from Melbourne, Florida called Discount.
mhm.
So Discount has an album, and we used to see them locally all the time. They had a girl singer, Allison, who's now in that band, The Dead Weather.
Mhm.
And she was in The Kills, like a lot of, but she was in this band called Discount. And it's like, sounds like Jordan.
Yeah.
So we love, and Jordan used to pretend this is the album Half Fiction.
I gotta check it out.
Yeah, Discount, Half Fiction. So, and Jordan used to lie and say that he dated her. But he never he lied. We caught him in a lie. That was like his thing, like, oh yeah, I dated Allison. Like, no, you didn't. But we used to play house shows with them. They were a huge influence on us, like big time. That we loved. And then also I gotta give props to another New York hardcore band that this album, Black Train Jack, No Reward.
Yes.
So Black Train Jack, No Reward, like this song right here was like, where is it? Hold on. Hold on. Sorry. Where is it? So it was like, the verse was like Cro-Mags. Don't know how. Right? Which I was like, I'm like, it's super hardcore, but in the chorus, wait. So this is before us, but I wanted to sound like this too. And then the chorus is like,
Yeah.
yeah. So Black Train Jack, No Reward, and Discount, Half Fiction were two records where I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, I love the, you know, that was like a big influence.
I mean, definitely like early like Newfound Glory, you definitely do hear that like you know, early era of like punk, where it started getting like just like the skate punk type era stuff, where you hear it in there. but it's just cool to see what you guys turn that sound to what it is now, and
That's
what
cool.
you guys see. I mean, you gotta see a plethora of bands that like, that essentially sound like Newfound Glory, that like, that you guys built a whole nother thing. But so I think it's 20 years for the self-titled this weekend, right? Or this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, 20 years.
So that
September 26th.
so the self-titled is essentially the record that kind of like just sent you guys off for the rest of your career in a certain sense.
Yeah.
20 years later, you guys, how does that feel?
Dude, it's crazy, man. We put the vinyl on sale yesterday or day before, and it sold out like 4,000 records, like pretty fast. And
Awesome.
20 years later, like people still wanting that vinyl, and that it means much to them and so much to them. It's crazy, man. It's awesome. And, it doesn't feel super old. I think that, like, even though it is, it just all feels like, I don't know, it just feels like yesterday, and it feels like we're on the same track, it seems like we're on the same path as we were then. And that's just to, keep it going and play in the band as long as we have. And I think also, like, how we embraced all the old stuff throughout the years, I think is also what helped it a lot too. Because a lot of bands, I think, over a certain time start to shame their old stuff, like they'll
Dude, those records. I mean, when I was a kid, those records were like me. It's funny. Me and one of my best friends, who like me and him got into hardcore together. We used to spin the shit out of self-titled. It was like I think we were like in middle school or something.
For the mosh part.
Yeah, but it was just like those because those self-titled and what was after self-titled, and then Sticks and Stones and Catalyst.
Yeah,
and it's like those records were just like always on rotation, and it's cool to see that, like, they do stand the test of time. Like those records are still fucking, people will still love them and still want to spin them.
That's cool.
But as far as like, I always ask this, like, as far as the dynamic, it's like you guys have been the same band members for
a long time,
over 2 decades. And
yeah.
I asked this question because I've asked other friends, some of our friends who've been in bands for like 10 years or less or whatever, and how's that dynamic of being in a band together for so long? Because I mean, I'll be the first one to say there's times where I'm in, on tour, like these people next to me are my best friends, but also I'm like, get the fuck away from me.
You hate them.
So,
yeah.
and people don't know that, but like people who, aren't in a band don't understand the dynamic of like, it's just like a brother that you're fucking constantly around.
Mm-hmm.
How, sometimes that breaks bands apart. How have you guys done it for so long?
Well, I think now that we're like older and we've kind of, we're on the other side of it, the back end of it, I feel like there's no ego, right? Where we all know our lane,
Mm-hmm.
So like we stay in our own lanes, and we'll come together and see a movie, we'll hang out and we'll have fun together at times. But like, if my bass player Ian's on my nerves, like I'll be like, dude, get away from me. Or I'll say it to him, or I'll get away from him. Or if I know he's in a bad mood, or they know I'm in a bad mood, like we know each other so well now. So we're able to like do what we do in our band and not have any ego problem. Like, oh, I wish I could do this more. It's like, no, this is your strength. This is your weakness. Yeah. This is my strength. This is my weakness. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses and roles in their band, and everyone's totally fine with that. And no one's trying to like step on anyone else's toes, and acknowledges like there are things that my drummer does really well that I just can't do. And I'm not even going to try to figure it out to prove something, because he's got it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think we're also really, really honest. We do a lot of interventions where like we can go, let's say, like if a tour starts, it's honestly when it's at the beginning of a tour, because it's hard to readjust from your like normal life back to tour.
Yeah.
So I'd say what we started doing is after the first week of tour, we'll all sit in the back lounge and be like, dude, Jordan, you're sucking. Like, you act like you don't want to be here. Why? And then we talk about it. And they'll say to me, well, you're doing this or blah, blah, blah. Like, why, and we kind of like hash it all out and are honest right to each other's faces. There's no like, that's another thing that's good is there's no more like teams.
You don't leave room for like the unknown, it's like.
Yeah. Or like me and Ian don't team up against Cyrus, and Jordan and Cyrus don't team up against Ian. Everyone's their own person. Everyone's like can handle conflict, and they're not like, ooh, I gotta like manipulate this person to make them take my side and start some, everyone just really kind of has their place and communicates, and it's awesome. And I think too, when you see like, Newfound Glory is our passion and always has been, and always will be. But it also is like how we have our families. It's also how we have paid for the bills. It's all, it's everything. So you don't really stress the little things, because like when your job is also your passion, like why are you going to like get upset about some in the moment?
Yeah. You got to think of the larger picture. Yeah, man. Yeah. I had to ask, because it's like, dude, it's like, you see a lot of these bands that have surpassed that 20-year mark, and it's not the same members by any means, like at all. It's like one original member, and then fuck you, So it's cool to see you guys, go through that and able to keep it together, just because it's not common,
Yeah. Like everyone makes their sacrifice. Everyone has to leave their families and do whatever they have to do to make the band happen. So I think everyone just treats everyone equally,
So what about like when it comes to like writing music? What's that dynamic like? Like, is it something that there's one person writes most of the stuff and everybody kind of inputs in?
Yeah.
How does that work for you guys?
It's a process. It's great. It's kind of like I'll write the song, you know what I mean? Like I'll write all the riffs or write the song, and I'll write a ton of stuff, and I'll bring like 20 to 30 songs and kind of go through them. Me and Cyrus will record like a crappy demo to it. Like, he does like the computer drums, and I just do the plug-in, build a little crappy version. Everyone gets those, lives with those, and then we all get together and just dissect them. And it's awesome, because it's like by the time Ian is done with the song, by the time Jordan's done with the song, Cyrus, like it's completely different, like everyone just gets to have their way with the song pretty much, where I kind of like, I'll write the song, but by the time it's done, it's completely different, which I think is like, I love, and I think everyone loves, in the band that method we have, because it's like an idea has to start somewhere. It can't just like automatically appear.
Yeah.
And where they're great is, for me, like I'm obviously too close to the song, right? Because so when I give it to them and we get in a rehearsal space together, Ian, I love him, but it definitely sucks when he's like, the song sucks. Like, I don't like this one. I like this one. I'm like, okay, but there's a reason why he feels that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So instead of me being like, come on, man, I'll be like, all right, like, then we'll work on this one. We'll have a vote. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And Ian actually will rewrite stuff, like some of our endings and bridges or parts, the note progressions will change, because Ian will have, it's kind of like I start it and then they finish it.
That's awesome.
It's so cool.
I think every band has kind of that one member that writes the riffs, and then everybody kind of picks it apart as far as what goes where, or kind of adds their little taste to it. It's the same thing for my band, where we're just like, our guitar player writes everything, and then I'll go over, do lyrics, our drummer does the drums. But there's definitely times like, man, this shit sucks. Like, what? Why? And then you have to like sit there and break it down, like, okay, what sucks about it? Like, what can we do here? Right? So
it makes everyone better, man. You know, it makes the songs better, and you know, we've always that's another thing. And I think another thing is we've always sort of seen everyone's value in the band. So like we've always split everything, you know, like always, like all of our, you know, publishing or everything in our band has always been split equally.
yeah,
Even if, let's say, I write the majority of one song, this other song wouldn't be there without Ian or
yeah,
Jordan or Cyrus. Like, you know, so I think that's another thing is like, you know, people that nitpick, like, I did this and I did this or whatever. It's like, that's how a band fails, you know?
yeah.
You're a band, you know, it's everyone's personality and they're all their additions and that makes it like the band, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's one very notable thing about Newfound Glory is that you do see that in like you guys' presence and like records is that, you know, it's you guys are the, you know, not only is the band good, but it's like your guys' personalities are very, it's what makes the band and people love you guys for that reason, you know.
That's
Where
cool.
like, where you like you know there's sometimes where like there's like bands I like and then I'll read the records or like the credits and they're like, oh, you know, so and so wrote all the riffs, wrote all the music.
Yeah.
It's this almost like narcissistic thing that I'm just like, man, come on, man, no one needs to know that. Like, just
Yeah.
you know,
Like, dude, there's a song on like Resurrection that our fans don't even know on our Resurrection album, the song called Stubborn.
mhm.
And pretty much the lyrics were written by Ian. Like people wouldn't know that, but basically Ian was going through something and he literally wrote down like all these lyrics and sent them to me. He was like, do what you want with these, but these are what and made a whole song to it. You know what I'm saying? Like took his words and kind of, you know, which I don't even think a lot of people know that, but yeah, but Ian pretty much wrote all the lyrics to Stubborn in his own way, you know?
That's awesome. So this, I mean, this is kind of a loaded question. Do you personally have a favorite Newfound Glory record?
I mean, the new one,
That's awesome.
Forever and Ever Times Infinity. Yeah, I love the new one. I feel like we're in the new one, I feel like the most ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're always ourselves at the time, but sometimes even if you're being yourself at that time might be manipulated or something. You know what I mean? Like you always think you're being real, but sometimes when you step back and even if you're being real in the moment, you know, over time you're like, oh, wait a second, maybe I wasn't being as real as I thought. So yeah. I think I think about Forever and Ever Times Infinity is I think we've been able to really get back to blending all of our styles the most where, you know, like I love our Makes Me Sick record, but that's more of like a synth driven album. It was more like, how do we make an album that is this, where, you know, we had these sort of thoughts of like, how do we make, you know, where when it comes to Forever and Ever Times Infinity, dude, I picked up a guitar and just started playing riffs that I haven't played in a long, long time.
So it's just for a natural progression for this latest record.
Yeah, it felt new. Where if I would have gone and played an old punk riff before, it would have felt forced. But because we had a departure for some albums, going back to that style was just, I was able to be inspired to write that style again and not feel like I was like compromising. Does that make sense?
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So I love it. I love the record because there's like the song Trophy. There's a song called Trophy on our new album. And the whole song just like could have been like a fast break, old saves a day, old like, you know, that whole old style 90s fast, you know, verse and stuff, pre-chorus, but then the chorus kicks in and it's like a super Newfound Glory. And it's kind of like, I just think it's what was old now feels new and fresh. And I think you see that with like a lot of things. Even I know that happens with hardcore, you know, like.
Yeah, it's very common. It's very common in hardcore, but like, I think, you know, start going to different formats of music. It's like, unless you know, like obviously what influenced you, unless you know, it's like hard to pick up, you know. But it's you know, it's probably cool to like, you know, at least in hardcore now, it seems like the stuff that probably got me into hardcore and you into hardcore was that like a lot of metallic hardcore is like big again now, you know. And then you also, I'm seeing a lot of bands like, starting to go, I guess on the most like, alternative side, you see a lot of bands starting to go into like old, like, Saves a Day style songs, going to like, like that whole like Texas is a Reason type stuff. And
Yeah.
and it's cool because it's refreshing. Yeah, it is refreshing. Even though like when people say like, oh man, that's a ripoff, I hate that shit because it's like no, it's like it's an influence of something that like that someone liked or loved, and same thing with me. If you ask me like about Shabal, I was like, yeah, the first fucking two records was literally I just wanted to sound like fucking Sepultura and Disembodied.
Yeah.
Is it a ripoff? Yeah, probably, but that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you wanted to play, and
Yeah.
and everything is a ripoff. I mean, you can't, nothing's new and nothing new under the sun. Like that's just what happens, right? Like
Yeah, no one's reinventing the wheels unless you're like smashing like I don't know fucking spoons and trash cans and weird shit like that.
Yeah. That's the funniest thing to me about a lot of like indie music or like that kind of stuff now is like I hear it and it's like this is new and hip and different. I'm like, dude, this sounds like the music that used to be on the radio when I was at the dentist in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Dude.
Like all the do 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 do.
Yeah.
All that kind of like there's a lot of this stuff that like I hear like I mean 1975 and like all that era stuff like it's catchy and it's fun, but I'm like people are like this is edgy and I'm like this is dentist music,
This is dentist music.
And it's catchy and good. It's funny like how people use it for their identity and are like
Yeah.
new and that's a ripoff and there's this and that and it's just like dude everything's been done before and that's okay. Like it's cool to like expand like I think if everyone can be themselves when writing, that's when you get like new stuff, you know what I mean? Like like I know you you interviewed Story So Far, and that's why I love their newer record is like they're a band that I feel like they have their influences with like how do we just like grow it a little bit more by putting more of like who we are personally into the music, and then you get something new and different. But what's cool is you can hear the inspirations.
Yeah, you definitely can. That's what's cool to see is like see bands. I think
but it's still them.
Yeah,
and it's cool.
I think one of my favorite bands, watching them grow from like the start to where they're at now, is like Ceremony. Like their first record compared to where they're at now, it's like totally different. But it's like every single record they just added a piece of themselves and like what they like, and it's just like it's a natural progression to like where it's at a point where like, dude, I fucking love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, when you find when you're really comfortable with, and I think that's why I love Forever and Ever Times Infinity, our new record, another plug. But no, I'm just kidding. But honestly, like if I think about our band as a career in our career, like we did our Makes Me Sick record, which we did before our 20-year anniversary tour, right? So we did that record, but then we did the 20th anniversary tour, and we saw for a good year, we played like 90 something shows that year around the world, and we saw the reaction of our band from all those years.
Yeah.
And that was after Makes Me Sick. So where we saw what the fans loved for all those years. Then after that, we did our movie cover record, which was like a nostalgia thing. And we saw our fans' reaction to that. And we were like, yeah, they loved it. So we're like, wait a second. When we're being ourselves the most is when the fans react the best. Whenever we feel like we have to prove something in the past, it's always like fans like it, but it's doesn't have, they like it, but they can also maybe smell BS. You know what I mean? Like fans know like, oh, this is a cool song, but they're trying to do this. Like fans know. So I think what was cool with ever since the 20-year anniversary tour of our band, our mindset has completely changed. And we still put in tons of effort. It's not like we just like, oh, whatever, we can do anything. No, we put in tons of effort. But it's like the effort is how do we like not listen to those voices and just make yeah, you know, how do we be the most like newfound glory we can be, and what that means for people, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's definitely awesome to hear that, because like you guys have been a band that like I can't ever think of a time you guys ever like taken a like significant break.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you guys have constantly been on the road, touring, growing, and it's that takes its like toll on your mental as far as what you think you need to do for fans or for critics or whatever. I can't even imagine what that pressure is. So
Yeah.
to get outside of that bubble and be like, all right, I need to write a newfound glory record that's like for us and like that's natural,
Yeah.
because yeah,
All around.
dude, yeah, you guys, dude, newfound glory, dude, I don't know how you do it. You guys are fucking workhorses. Like it's insane how much
Fun.
how you guys do it. But I mean that kind of comes to my next question is that obviously newfound glory has turned into your career. With COVID-19, the reason why we're doing a lot of these interviews is because, well, fuck, we're stuck at home.
Yeah.
But I also want to see you too. Talk to you. It's been too.
Yeah,
long.
you miss me.
I miss you, dude. But like, how is that like? How's this whole pandemic been for you guys, as far like personally and the band? Like, some people are like, it's nice to have the break, and then there's people that are just like stressed and like, there's almost like for me personally, like there's times where I get into this like depressive state where I'm like, dude, I just want to go back to work. I want to go
Yeah.
back to tour. So like, how are you taking this whole situation, and how's it affecting the band?
Yeah, man. I think it's like weeks by weeks, it always changes because obviously like, we think it's going to end at some time and then it doesn't. So it's a constant work in progress. But no, the truth is like for me, I think what I've been focused on most, well, what I realize is I think a lot of people is there's tons of shit you care about that you realize now doesn't matter. Okay. That's been the best thing is like, we all try to control so much in our lives. Like let's say planning, touring, who am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? Who's going to be there? What's this? You do all this stuff and there's all this like extra noise and stuff in our lives that we like try to control. Right. Yeah. So the pandemic has done this, dropped the bomb on that. It's like, that doesn't matter anymore. Now, like all the shit you think you waste time planning and the details, like that's all just in your head. Like things are either going to work out or they're not going to work out, and that's it. Like you can do everything you want, but at the end of the day, there's going to be a fucking pandemic and then it's all done anyway. So,
yeah.
So that's one thing. It has reminded me it's given me a lot of, it put a lot of things in perspective about what I should care about and what I shouldn't care about, what I overstress about and what I don't need to stress about anymore. Because we all know, like, we aren't given things we can't handle. We all can adapt. We all can make it work. Right. So that's been great. So in like a growth sense, like, okay, cool. How do I, so that's been really cool is like the growth sense, the personal, like figuring out how to, figuring out like what's most important in life has been awesome. Yeah. Get a lot of time off and things like that. As far as the band, it's been, it's been in the beginning, it was tough when all the touring gets canceled and there's still no touring booked and you don't even know, yeah. But I've been grateful for our, not to sound corny, but for our fans, because our fans are also bored. Mm-hmm. So they're still engaged. And that's the thing I would say to anyone who's like, I'm in a band, I'm bored, I want to tour. The fans are saying, I'm bored, I want you to tour. So for my advice and what we've been doing is to just be as active. Did the live stream, fans want to watch you play. It worked, fans showed up, they bought merch, they want to buy merch. They want to support you. They're like, yo, you're in a pandemic. I want to see you. I can't. I want to support your band. So they all showed up. It was awesome. They supported us. They got a newfound glory shirt because they can't see us on tour and they want to support you. So that's how we adjusted. And now we're doing the other stream. because fans are same thing. When are you gonna do another stream? I want to see you play.
Yeah.
So we're grateful for our fans, and dude, it's just like, it's just more a cool, it's been a cool way to get creative.
Yeah.
You know, I got some other tricks up, we got some other tricks up our sleeves. Like
Yeah.
we might even film like a special, you know, like a
That's
joke mini movie special or something, you know, like how do you like stay,
You just gotta stay
yeah,
interactive with, you know?
yeah, like, okay, here's a cards you were dealt, you know, like how you gonna play them, you know, like how you gonna get creative, and it's forceful, it's like a forced, you know, like, yeah, it's, you're forced to have to be creative and think outside the box,
Yeah.
and that's cool, like that's fun, you know. And it sucks, like, dude, I want to go on tour, and you know, I'm like, the guys in my band, I don't have kids, but everyone in my band has kids, you know.
Yeah.
Ian has 3, Cyrus has 2, Jordan has 2.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're stressed about, you know, being able to pay bills and, you know, all that stuff. And it's stressful, but we kind of still have the same mentality as we did when we're playing basements and living room shows, you know, like how do you make it work?
Just staying, yeah, and that's obviously the DIY background, and you guys are like, all right, let's stay creative, you know?
Yeah.
And I
You
tell
just-
other friends, like, too, I'm like, dude, like, some people are like kind of weird about this whole streaming thing and like weird about like, playing live. I'm like, dude, like, you think it's weird, but put yourself in the perspective of a fan. Like, I just want, like, it's cool to see what people are doing. It's cool to see their interaction and how they're doing, whether
Yeah.
it's questions or even like, if I can't physically see them, it'll be cool to, dude, fuck it, I'll sit back on the couch and watch a live set.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's cool that like you guys are staying proactive in that sense that like, you know, it's so easy to just sit back and say, fuck it, we'll wait it out. But
Yeah.
the fact is that fans do want to see you, do want to see how you're doing, do want to see you play songs, do
Yeah.
want, you know, it's like, you know.
And I think the pride in some people, they're like, that, you know, that's cheesy or that's weird. It's not whatever. It's this. It's like all those people that say that make music videos.
Yeah, same thing.
Music videos is air guitar. This is more real than making a music video. Because
Yeah,
music video, you're not playing. This is you're actually playing. It's just no one's there. Same thing
Yeah.
as in music. So yeah, I mean, I think like for us, like we love our band. We want to play our songs. However, you know, we like hanging out.
yeah,
Dude, like when my band came up here for the first stream, everyone's like, dude, it's so sick to hang out. We just jammed. We played all day for like 3 days. Just played songs and like goofed off, and that was awesome. You know, we love what we do, and like fucking the COVID, you know?
fucking COVID, dude. COVID needs to fuck off already. I'm over it. But I mean, dude, I'm stoked to, you know, stoked you guys are staying proactive and streaming. You know, another thing, you know, I wanted to ask and dive into is that you've also have been producing records for quite some time, and some of my favorite records too. What's are you still doing that? Are you still producing records and recording? And is that
Yes.
something that's kind of harder? Because before you were based in LA,
Yeah,
right?
California. Yeah.
So how's that for you?
Dude, you know what happened is so when I started making records, like started producing bands and stuff, like Newfound Glory wasn't as active.
Mhm.
And I also think at the time, the band wasn't as fun as it is now.
Yeah,
We weren't like as tight as we are now. So like I was looking for any outlet to get away. You
yeah,
know, like I knew I still wanted to be in Newfound Glory, but at the time it was like a really weird place for our band.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of records as an escape and
Yeah.
a way to be creative where I didn't have to do the same old thing because I'm like, not this again. So there's a way to like be creative with music and then like, yeah, and fill in that void. You know, I was able to be passionate about music, but it not be the same old thing. But then once we made our Resurrection record, which, you know, was the sort of rebirth of our band and everything, that was like, that was it. Like we were so full on that I just kind of stopped making records because I was so like 100% back into Newfound Glory that anytime I had an offer to make a record, I only had like a month between a tour or a month between studio and tour for Newfound itself that it just became too hard. You know, I didn't want to spend the month I had off in a room without windows.
Yeah,
You
dude,
know,
I can't. I mean,
dude.
I've been in some of the studios where you're producing records, and I'm like, wait, you sit here for how long? I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was awesome. And I love, you know, all the records I worked on and all the bands that I worked with that gave me the opportunity. And I wouldn't say that I wouldn't do it again, but I definitely would do it again when we weren't as active. You
Yeah.
know?
So for now, it's just, you know, it's just not your main concentration, you know, and
Yeah.
that's good to acknowledge that. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I don't want to force something, you know, like what's the point of me forcing to do something that not necessarily I want to do at this time, you know?
Yeah. And I think as a producer, I'm not one that's even like, because there's a lot of people that are really, really into sound and gear and studio. I'm like all about feel, you know? So with that said, like the majority of my work is in those small rooms, but no windows, playing the songs over and over, dissecting them. How do we make this better? So a lot of my work is like in the intense discussion.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah.
me and Vogel, you know, face to face yelling at each other, you know? It's
Yeah.
me and Scott. No, I'm just kidding. Scott's amazing.
I definitely pictured it. I definitely pictured it though.
No, I mean it's been awesome. You know, like it was so awesome. Like I was teasing about because Keepers of the Faith has like an anniversary coming up.
Yeah,
So teasing Scott, but yeah, like so a lot of that production work is like intense and in that small room and I don't if I don't have my heart all the way into it, I'm not going to do it for a paycheck.
yeah.
You know, if you look at the projects I've worked on and the records, like they weren't, you know, they weren't like paycheck records. And like I produced a couple Day to Remember albums, but those were the records before they blew up massive. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they were big then too, but you know, everything was like, you know, a passion project.
Yeah,
You know, so even with A Day to Remember, you know, like A Day to Remember was fun for me because here's a band that's like, we want to sound more poppy and heavier. So I'm like,
yeah. That's
I
what
can
you
do that.
do. You got that's
I
your
can do
world,
that
dude.
all day, you know. And so that was fun, you know, like that, and because it wasn't my music, you
Yeah,
know, fun to be able to like, you know. I remember a discussion I had for them. I was showing them breakdowns that weren't crunchy.
yeah,
I was like, dude, like you know, listen to a Cro-Mags like breakdown. Like
yeah,
none of them are like dun 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 dun. They're all like, you know,
yeah.
big chords. Dun, you know, they're all like, you know, they're big chords. So I remember, you know, working with them and being able to like
Give them that.
talk about heavy music and different stuff. Like that was really fun.
That's awesome to hear that because that's definitely like noticeable, you know, that influence there that you had. Well, I mean, you know, hopefully at some point you guys, you know, we can get back on the road.
Yeah.
Whenever that does happen, do you have like it could be any bands in the world, you know, alive or dead? Uh, what what would be your dream tour of four bands, including Newfound Glory?
4 bands.
Four bands or four artists. It doesn't necessarily have to be a band. Like if it was like a dream tour, who would you tour with, alive or dead?
Oh man. I think it'd be fun to do like a late 90s tour, you know, again, like a Newfound, Get Up Kids, Saves a Day,
I would.
and maybe one more. Who else would be a great one during that time period? I don't know, Midtown or something. I don't know. I got to think of it, but just like a 90, yeah, just like a late 90s type tour. You know, that would be really fun, that whole era. And like call it something fun and
I feel like that tour right now would kill it.
it'd be awesome.
It would do so well. I mean, just food for thought, you know.
Yeah, that would be it'd be really cool. And
Well,
I've always wanted to tour with Green Day again. We toured with Green Day once, and when they did American Idiot, and they were like the nicest band.
Really? That's
you've
awesome.
ever toured with. I mean, I couldn't believe it. You know, this
Yeah, I
band
did
that
that. So I PM a couple of venues here, and I did a show with what was his like his side project show, his band.
the one with the masks and stuff. When they wear like,
No, he had like a side project band like recently, like this was like last year.
oh, okay,
Me being being a kid, like two of the first records I ever bought were Dookie and Smash the Offspring.
yeah,
Two big records for me as a kid. I was like, oh fuck, like it's cool to meet this dude, and just like showed up with his car, and I was like, has all this gear, and I was like, hey man, like, do you need help? You all good? He's like, no, I'm good, like no worries, like just super nice, and was like, hey
yeah,
man, just always like checking in on me. I'm just like, I'm good, man. I work here.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, they were like yeah, exactly. They were the nicest. They're
That's
like the biggest band we ever toured with, and probably the easiest and most like friendly. You know, no egos, no like you can't walk here. Like it's just like cool. Which yeah,
funny story, like talking about the venue and stuff. I gotta send it to you. I have a video of when you found played at the observatory, and you guys stayed the night at the venue. Where there's a video of you guys just like after the show's done in the middle of the night, just like playing riffs, jamming out, and Zach falls off the stage into
yes,
the
in the barricade,
yeah.
dude. And that wasn't that the security footage or something?
Yeah,
That's
it's security footage, and it's funny because like I don't know if it was the owner or one of my coworkers. He sends it to me. He's like, man, look what your friends are doing.
oh my gosh,
we're watching you guys on the security footage, just jamming out, and I think obviously Zach's drunk, and like I just see him fall into the barricade.
dude. Wasn't Martine there too? I think Martine and Dre. Yeah, because Martine and Dre slept on the bus that night. And we all went out to eat, or we went somewhere like out to eat and got back really late. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was just like, hey,
So it was just funny.
Back doors open, the gear's up there, like, let's go. And everyone was just wasted.
We're just watching from like the security cameras at home, and my coworker's like, he's like, your friends are crazy.
Dude, I didn't know that. You had it at home, the security footage?
Yeah, we can watch all the footage. Like we can watch the cameras from home. But
Oh that's amazing.
I gotta send you that footage of Zach just literally head straight into the pit. It was just like the funniest thing ever, dude.
Dude, how about that show Newfound did at where Eric Curry used to work?
Oh yes. It was I
What was
think
it called? The venue?
Safari Sam's.
Safari Sam's.
Dude,
Yeah.
that place
Yeah.
sucked.
Yeah, I know. Eric's like, you should play here. And I was like, I was like, sure. And then we put Eric Curry Productions. And we booked the show and had an ice cream truck there and just made it wild. And just, yeah, that show was wild. It was so random.
That venue was it was like fun for the perspective of like what it was, but it was just always like a wild venue to go to. There's like a strip club like above it.
It was chaos,
I
man.
was just like, what is this place, dude?
Yeah.
But
It's awesome.
well, dude, good to see you, man. I hope
Yeah, you too.
excited for the stream coming up. Excited for you guys have a new record and fucking 20 years of being a band. That's over 20 years of being a band.
Yeah,
So
thank you, man.
that's incredible, Any shout outs before I let you go?
No, just thank you, man. Thanks for doing this. And this is awesome. This is like, it's cool to see all of them, like all the bands you've interviewed and all the, just the stuff you're doing, you're helping bands stay active and in people's faces, and which is good.
Man.
It's awesome.
I'm bored, dude.
What's up with that karaoke the other night I saw online?
Oh, dude.
It was like a party going on.
So I think it was after the stream was finished. I don't think I turned off the camera, but yeah, we're all just doing karaoke at I turned my friend's bar into a studio, and I think it was like me, Teen, and like a couple other people, and I'm just like at the next morning I was like, fuck, did I turn the camera off? And like I had friends be like, yo, you guys were karaokeing all night, and I left the camera on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always tell Martine gets serious at karaoke. He really gets into the.
He loves it. That's all he wants to do.
And he always sings Seal.
Dude, that's why I don't like. He's like, let's go karaoke. I'm like, what? So you can sing the same two songs? It's always Alice in Chains and Seal.
Yeah.
I was like, no, dude. But he loves it. I'm actually gonna see him later today.
Oh, cool.
Dude. So movie theaters just opened up like in Orange County. So like, I'm so excited to just sit in a movie theater, eat some popcorn, and I'm just
It's
like,
awesome.
oh my god,
I finally did it last week. I saw Tenet.
dude, how was it?
It was so good.
That's what we're gonna go watch.
Yeah. Are you seeing it like IMAX or anything, or just
Yeah,
like,
we're gonna see it in IMAX.
dude? Just you got to text me when it's over. Tell me what you think.
I will. I'm so excited, and I mean, you're a big movie buff, so I'm like, if you say good, I'm trusting you, dude.
It's good, man. It's good. I don't want to say too much though. I hate like, pumping it up and then disappointing someone. But I think you're gonna flip. There's no way not to watch it. Like, I don't think you can't watch that movie and not go like, how did they do this? You know what I mean?
I mean, I also love that the director's just like, no, like this, you have to see this in a movie theater. Like, I'm not going to like stream it online or anything, which is like, I love his style,
Yeah, you definitely have to see it in the theater. Like I get there's certain movies where I'm like, I wish Bill and Ted's went to the theater, but I get why they streamed it. Like Bill and Ted,
did you like Bill and Ted's?
I get to see it yet.
Oh, okay. I loved it.
Okay. Yeah, I heard some good things. I heard mixed, but I heard mainly good stuff.
I won't say too much, but I loved it. But also I loved it for the nostalgia, like of like what it was then and what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Like I don't think it's gonna reinvent the wheel or anything.
No, it's not. But just watch it, dude.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, thank you.
Dude, good to see you. Shout out Newfound Glory.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Talk to you soon, bud.